today I want to walk through the highlights from the final ruling for the 2018 MIPS program. There's a lot of information to cover. We've tried to pull out just the highlights. There are a couple main pieces that we are going to focus on from CMS's point of view. They believe that the changes that have been made give groups more flexibility, more options. There's less of a burden involved. They've helped out some rural and some small practices in a couple different ways, and we're going to look at each of those. You know, I'm not necessarily agreeing with all of them, but I can understand how those points could be made. So we're going to look at the pros and cons of each. And in addition to what's listed here, we're going to look at changes to the categories. We're going to look at the cost category as well that's introduced this year, and how those scores are calculated. And then we're going to also look at some bonuses that are available this year. So you all may have heard a few months back, the CMS administrator, Seema Verma, she announced this patients over paperwork. And this is an initiative where they feel like, you know, CMS has given almost 60 rules out every year for the last 5 years. And so the frustration has been boiling with providers, with administrators, is that it's great that we've got, you know, this MIPS program in place where the purpose is to improve the quality of care and reduce costs, but it is causing a regulatory burden for a lot of folks. And that's pretty easy to understand. So what they are looking at doing this year and some of the changes they have already made and that they are currently looking to make this year, which is more under the second half of this screen under meaningful measures, is to do just that, to make sure that the changes that are made and the requirements in the program moving forward are meaningful, that it's not redundancy, that the ultimate goal is to lower costs and to help patients get better care for the entire population outcome. Okay, so first, who has to participate this year in MIPS? So when I say this year, I mean 2018. So really not much has changed since 2017 as far as who has to actually participate. You've still got the same folks from this current year, your physician, your CRNSAs, your CNSs, PAs, nurse practitioners, specialists still have to use the MIPS program in 2018. There's been a lot of questions about these folks here on the right. These types of specialists are not included this year. And when I say this year, I mean 2018. They are not included. They will come in 2019. So again, really not much has changed. As far as exemptions from the MIPS program, it's the same as last year. So if it's your first year in Medicare Part B participation, then you as a clinician are exempt in 2018. Same thing with the low threshold, which we'll talk about in a moment. If you're below that threshold, then you do not have to participate. However, that threshold has increased, so we'll discuss that. And of course, certain folks who participate in advanced alternative payment models, they are excluded from the MIPS program as well, just like that they discussed last year is now moving forward this year. So the stakes are raised. You've got more to gain and more to lose this year with the MIPS program starting in January of 2018. This year, 2017, you had a possibility of losing 4% on your Medicare payments that would hit you in 2019, and you have an upside of 4% for the same 2019 payment period. We'll talk a little more about how those numbers can actually go higher for you. But in 2018, it is true that if you take no action, then you will be getting a 5% reduction in all of your Medicare Part B payments in the 2020 payment year. Hopefully, though, you'll be on the flip side of that and be getting the 5% upside adjustment. the stakes, like we said, they raise each year, and by 2021, this number is going to increase to plus or minus 7%. So it continues to rise. Okay. Well, the big news is that the cost category is now included. So it will count 10%. So what they've done is they've dropped the quality category down to 50%, and your cost category is now going to be worth 10% of your final score. The nice news is the cost category is pulled for you. CMS is pulling that from your claims and ERA data. So you really don't have to take any action to make sure it gets submitted. However, the way you monitor it and the way that it's calculated into your composite score is extremely important that you understand how that is done, because that can negatively affect you. The ACI and improvement activities, those weights stay the same. 25% for the advancing care information category, which of course is the renamed meaningful use, and then your improvement activities, which hopefully everyone on this call is acing. Those are as close to gimmies as you can get, and that will still count as 15% of your composite score. One of the other changes is the reporting period times. So in 2017, this current year, quality, advancing care, and improvement activities were all 90-day reporting periods. In 2018, that's going to change. Quality is going to go from 90 days to a full 365 days, to a full year. Cost also will be a full 365 days. ACI and improvement activities will stay at the 90-day reporting period. The big takeaway here is that the quality measures you select, the workflows that you're using, the tracking that you're using, you need to have that in place by January 1st, so you're not having to go retroactive, which depending on your EHR can be a difficult task. So if you hear nothing else that I hear for the rest of this presentation, that's the most important piece. For your quality workflows, make sure you have something in place by January 1st. Hopefully, most of you on this call, or hopefully all of you on this call, have already selected measures for 2017 and you've been tracking them, because most of those measures will carry over for the next year, which is wonderful news for most groups. The thresholds, which we discussed earlier, those are changing as well. These thresholds are increasing, which is good for providers who are right on that cusp. So for this year, the 2017 year, if you billed more than $30,000 to Medicare and you saw at least 100 unique Medicare patients in the year, you qualified and you are in the MIPS program. They've increased that greatly for 2018. Instead of 100 patients, now you have to see at least 200 patients. And instead of $30,000 in your Medicare allowables that you bill, you have to bill $90,000. This certainly will take out a lot of rural providers, smaller practices, to take them out of that eligible range. You can still report if you would like to, but you're not required to if both of those statements are not met. One of the most common questions we get is, well, I bill $90,000, but I don't see 200 patients, or vice versa. If that's the case, then you are exempt. This is an and statement to qualify. You must bill more than $90,000 and see more than 200 patients to qualify for the MIPS program. All right. Another addition that was made this year is virtual groups, and there was a lot of chatter about this towards the fourth quarter of this year. So virtual groups is basically, think of combining 2 or more different practices, technically 2 or more tax IDs that have 1 to 10 clinicians. They are going to report their data aggregated together. So in order to qualify, each tax ID has to exceed that low volume threshold. So they have to actually be above that $90,000 threshold and 200 patient threshold. They're subject to the exact same requirements and benefits as a single TIN in the group. It's not based on your geography, your size, your specialty, your number of providers in that 1 to 10 range. The reason that CMS is doing this is to give groups who perhaps don't feel like they have the resources to track this, to make improvements on their own, or really just have the administrative ability to do this program well. They can partner with another group and combine their resources together to hopefully alleviate some of that pain. Now, it is important to note that you do have to elect to do this. And if you do want to take this path, you have got about 17, 18 days to do it. So if you go to cms.gov, they will have a virtual groups toolkit you can search for, and it will give you the application of exactly how you take those steps to either form or join a virtual group. All right. The performance thresholds. So this year, in 2017, the threshold was 3 points, meaning if you just do something in a measure, you're going to get 3 points. Well, the thresholds now increase to 15 points. So the two big takeaways from this here at the bottom is you were able to avoid a penalty if you just top out your improvement activity score. So if all you're looking to do is the bare minimum, the pick your pace, is we don't care about a bonus, we just don't want to get slapped with that 5% penalty. The way you can do that is just top out the improvement activity score. That alone will get you over the total amount. This year, in 2017, a lot of groups have said, we're just going to submit one quality measure this year. That gets us our 3 points. We're good to go. We won't get a penalty. Next year, in 2018, that same quality measure will not avoid your penalty. That will earn you 3 points, not the threshold of 15 points that are required for next year. So if you do the same thing next year that you've done this year to just avoid a penalty, it will not work. That line for you goes from 3 to 15. All right. CMS has been a lot more clear on hardships. So the hardships, they design those for providers that are impacted mostly by natural disasters. So Maria, Harvey, Irma, all of those hurricanes, the wildfires in Northern California right now, those are automatically given the hardship. So if you are a practice that's located in those geographical areas that got hit, you will have an automatic hardship. For 2018, however, you will have to apply, as of now, will have to apply if you are looking for an exemption for 2018. So to be clear, if someone on this call is in the California wildfire area, or you are in the direct path of Harvey, Irma, and Maria, then in 2017, you are going to receive the hardship. However, if you are not in that path, but were still affected, then you must apply for the exemption by 2018. Okay. Currently, we have 50% of the patients that we have to include for what CMS calls data completeness for each measure. We do not advocate folks picking and choosing, but by the letter of the law, from CMS. 50% was the threshold for 2017. That is increased in 2018, and now a minimum of 60% of your patients have to be included. So that number has gone up from 50% to 60%. All right, so I want to jump in real quick and look at a couple of the different categories and the specific updates that are affecting those. The biggest by far, the most amount of changes is to the quality category. So on the quality side, we currently have 291 measures. We will have a total of 297 in 2018. They've added some and they've removed a few. I listed the 3 that they removed here. The measures that they have added, there were 9. The most common ones that we see groups selecting, I put those 2 here, the well-child visits, are now inclusive of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th year. And then if you're using the developmental screenings for the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd year of life, those are added as well. Some of the others that they added, there's some bone density evaluations. There's some post-operative and combination therapy for pediatrics. There's some otitis and inappropriate use measures that have been added as well. So nine were added, which is nice. But again, those 2 listed are the most common that we see. There were some changes that were made to measures that a majority of groups that we talk with are using. Tobacco, BMI, and the flu immunization. So these are some of the changes that they made. Instead of just 1, you now have to have 3 rates for measure 226. For BMI, you have to have a frequency, which they lowered to every 12 months, not twice a year as we had this year. So that's a nice change. And then for the 110 measure, the influenza, they removed the 2-visit requirement. In addition, there's some high-risk medications in the elderly. So the rate changed from 2 different meds to 2 instances on the same medication. Closing loops on referrals. A receipt of a specialist report, they added the option that you can report this via registry as well. Okay, so there are 6 measures in 2018 that are going to be topped out, meaning the highest score you're going to be able to get is a 7 out of 10. So please, when you are selecting your measures, make sure that you are aware that if it is a topped out measure, 7 is the highest you're going to be able to score. To give you an idea of what those measures are real quick, one is the melanoma measure. One is the prophylactic antibiotic 1st or the 2nd generation for preoperative care. Let's see, the VTE for preoperative. There is some for image of localized lesions. COPD for the inhaled therapy is one as well. So if any of those sound familiar or you know you're using any of those, make sure that you know that 7 is the highest you're going to score this year. Something nice that they actually put into the language for 2018 is groups that show an improvement from their 2017 score can get up to 10 bonus points for showing an improvement in 2018 over 2017 for their quality scores. Now, they haven't given us the specifics on what those will look like, but it is good to see that for groups that maybe don't score as well in 2017, they could earn some bonus points in 2018. Unchanged is that you'll still get 3-point minimums if they're measures that you report against a benchmark. Same if they don't have a benchmark or you have less than 20 patients, you're still going to receive 3 points for that measure if you report it. However, please remember that you have to have 15 points to do the pick your pace, the bare minimum to avoid a penalty. The Same bonuses apply that we have in the quality category this year to next year, where your outcome measures and your high priority measures will still earn you 1 and 2 points respectively, with a top end of 6. And you can have end-to-end reporting electronically to get you bonus points as well in the quality category. All right, the cost category, there's really one question that always seems to come up with the cost measures. So there's two different measures that CMS is looking at. And in the cost category, it's per capita and it's per beneficiary. So I want to walk through each of these here. And I'm sorry to read directly off the slides for these, but it is important that everyone understands exactly what's required here and how they're being calculated. So the per capita is the combination of Medicare Part A and Part B. You have to have 20 patients, and the attribution process, which everyone has been scratching their head for months, is, how are they going to attribute which provider gets the cost attributed to their score? The way they're doing it, it's a two-step process. So number one, let's say that a patient receives services from a primary care provider during that year. The patient's costs are attributed to the primary care provider who billed the plurality of the Part B expenses that are associated for the evaluation and management services. So whichever provider bills the plurality is the one who's going to have the cost attributed to them. The second piece of this is, if there isn't a PCP that fits that, the patient's costs are going to be attributed to the specialist who billed the plurality of the Part B associated with those E&M services. So that's how Medicare is determining which provider has those costs associated with them. The second one down is the spending per beneficiary. So these are associated with the hospitalization, and the minimum amount there is 35 patients. If a cost score cannot be calculated by CMS, then the weighting of 10%, they will move that back into quality, and that's new. So if the cost category cannot be calculated, that 10% will be pushed back into the quality category. And if you want to see, your historical data, you absolutely should pull your QRUR reports from 2016, just to give you an idea, of cost measures, exactly what that would look like. All right, finally, I want to chat about the bonus points. So a lot of the bonus points are still in place from last year, from 2017, and here are the major ones. So you're still going to get your 5 bonus points if you have less than 15 clinicians. So for the smaller groups, that 5 bonus points is still automatically available. Same with the quality measures if they're not meeting the data completeness requirement. If you're not able to meet those requirements in those quality categories, then you will get a 3-point bonus. Secondly, if your EHR is a 2014 certified system, your CHRT is 2014, that's fine. You can still use it, but you're not going to be getting bonus points for it. If you use a 2015 certified system and all of your measures and calculations, and all of your measures that you select are coming from that 2015 certified system, then you will be getting 10 bonus points as well. And finally, the complex patients. So this is new. So you will get 5 bonus points based on 2 things. You can get them for complex patients, and that's broken down into the HCC, the hierarchical category coding, and additionally, the dual eligible patients that you're treating. The big takeaway there is if you are not looking at HCC codes for your diagnoses, you need to start, because these are gimme points. And if you are really, there's two pieces to this. If you are seeing patients and you have HCC codes that need to be coded, not only are you going to be able to increase your reimbursement and have more negotiating power with your payers, but you also are going to be getting 5 bonus points. So that's always a big one for us, is to make sure that your HCC coding is up to date, and you have to recertify those every year. All right, so that is all that I have prepared today. I'm trying to keep us right on time, and I'm almost gone over. CMS.gov and the QPP site are wonderful sites for information. They update these all the time. So this is a great source if you do want to see where we've pulled a lot of this information from. And finally, if you need to reach out to me or you have any questions, this is my email address. I see a couple folks on the call who I speak with regularly, and they could probably tell you if you can't reach me by my email, I'm happy to give you my personal cell phone, and you can reach me at your convenience, and I'm more than happy to assist any way we can. So I'm going to leave this up on the screen for a few moments, and if anyone needs anything, please feel free to reach out. You can check us out at CareOptimize.com, and of course, my email address is there as well. So thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful holiday season.